Another great brand to buy now, which is way undervalued, is IWC, International Watch Company. IWC, this was the darling child of the Swiss German industries. Now, IWC is a Swiss brand, but the region, Schaffhausen, where IWC is based, is famous for being a country, well, sorry, not a country, an area where people speak German. Most people in Switzerland speak French. So this is a slightly different twist because it is near the German border. It also has a lot of German precision and German ways of doing things. This translates to really fussy watchmakers who put the extra yard in to build extra quality pieces. Now, IWC, I can remember going back 10, 15 years ago, IWC was a brand that enthusiasts bought. If you wanted to showcase that, hey, you really knew a thing or two about watches, IWC was a brand that you bought. Rolex was always a brand for show-offs and nouveau riche, whereas IWC, that was a real enthusiast brand. IWC has many wonderful pieces. They have perpetual calendars. They have so many fantastic pieces. However, the reason some IWCs have suffered is because IWC traditionally used other movements. And this is the big problem with IWC. IWC uses movements in many models that are, how would you put it, generic. That's right, they've used ETA movements. In recent times, this has gotten worse when IWC is now using Solita movements. Now, what is the answer? What is the answer indeed? Well, I got to be completely frank and honest with you. I don't really want to pay big bucks for a Solita movement watch. I find it hard to fork out the coin for a piece that has got the same movement as many non-luxury brands. See, it's all about the prestige. It's all about the brand itself there. And I got to be frank with you, it really is a problem. Now, the interesting thing is, Rolex themselves there, they didn't actually make their own movements until recent times. That's right. They actually bought the movement maker, and that's now why they can say that, hey, we're in-house. The rules to all this here, it's a very tricky thing. It's a very tricky thing. It's hard. It's a very contentious sort of issue. Many years ago, it was quite acceptable for big makers to actually get third-party bits and pieces. In fact, many brands themselves, you'd have a case manufacturer, you would have a dial maker, you would then have movement makers, and you would piece these things together, a bit of customizing. And then what would happen is, it would then be a watch put together from various Swiss houses. Now, times have changed. What happened? Well, Rolex, there was a company called AEGLER. Agler, they are the people who supplied Rolex with movements. Well, Rolex took them over. That's it. That's what happened. See, this is the way the world has moved. And this nasty quest for in-house, well, how do I put it? Some companies moved forward, some companies didn't. In fact, companies like Breguet themselves, they now, because Breguet is owned by Swatch Group, they now use OMMANEY movements, which, because of that partnership, are in fact in-house. That's right. That's right. This is the way it goes. I mean, Rolex used to use movements from Agler, bracelets from a number of bracelet manufacturers, including Gay Fries. There was many bits and pieces that went together. Now, I gotta be completely honest with you. Rolex themselves, they are pretty well all in-house now, but there was a time when it wasn't the way. In fact, they used Valjoux 727 movement in the very valuable Paul Newman type Daytonas, in the plastic Daytona. When I say plastic, I'm talking about the plastic glass. So you've got to realize this. You've got to go with the flow. IWC, when they used different movements non-in-house, it wasn't a big problem because so many people did the same thing. Well, the worm has turned. The worm has turned. And that is no longer acceptable to do that. With IWC itself, the movements themselves, there are some in-house. In fact, my Ingenieur has a in-house, one of the famous IWC movements, quite a big movement, 42.5 mil case, pretty big monster. It's a big monster, but this is an anti-magnetic watch. And I've got to be honest with you, I think this sort of piece here, the IWCs with in-house, is the way to go. There's bargains to be found. There are bargains to be found, not just going through the bargain bin. Yes, the big Pilot's very popular, but that's big coin. What about one of these Ingenieurs, the Ingies, with the in-house movement? How much better can you get than that? Go in-house, young man. Go in-house. And I got to tell you, there was a time where if you were a sophisticated Weiss, you would have an IWC. Now, it's Rolex, Rolex, Rolex. The Rolex Kool-Aid. Rolex Kool-Aid. And I got to be completely frank and honest. The Rolex Kool-Aid, hey, I had enough of drinking from this tank. I like watches that are out of vogue. I don't want to be a sheeple. I'm a leader, not a follower. I'm a leader. So I think a brand like IWC can really be a great thing. It's really, really great. It's really, really fantastic. Really fantastic. So that is certainly my advice there, guys. That's my advice. Go to some of these brands that were so cool, and now they're bargains. They are bargains. We all want a bargain. This is where the smart money goes. The bargain. I'm a bargain hunter. Bargain hunter, guys. I want bargains. I don't want to pay retail. I don't want to follow the sheeple. And I honestly would say to you, IWC, it doesn't get cheaper now for a gorgeous classic, over-engineered with a German flavour than it does with IWC. That's right, guys. IWC is a bargain. Bargain. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and stay tuned for more alternatives to Rolex.